Welcome to the counselor overview for creating patient reports. We'll begin here in the patient visit screen. Now in this patient visit, we've already taken the case history, we've completed our testing, and now we're moving on to the counseling portion of the visit. As such, counselor takes the classification that you generated as part of the audiological evaluation and copies that over to the patient counseling summary. Now let's initially just have a look and see what the patient report looks like. Let's bring open the PDF and we can see first off, this would have your logo and your information. So this is all customized for you, but we have the patient information, the provider information, the Familiar Sounds audiogram, and of course I'll show you how you can modify the look and feel of the Familiar Sounds audiogram. Then we can see the the layman's term description of the hearing loss as well. Then beyond that, we can see the actual recommendations that you wish the patient to know. So this is just the initial one that's generated. Let's jump back into Counselor. Okay, so the recommendations here were generated as part of the case history part of the encounter because the patient had mentioned concerns about tinnitus, so Counselor automatically added a recommendation regarding coping strategies, habituating strategies to tinnitus. Then the patient had mentioned concerns about about noise exposure, so a recommendation about hearing protection is automatically added. So this is what happened, it added automatically as part of the case history part of the visit, but you of course can jump in here and modify this. So you can click Edit Recommendations. You can type in anything that you want. You can use the preset templates below. So you can be as general or as specific as you like. In this case, we'll go ahead and say consider trial with amplification. Then we'll say strategies for speech understanding include, right? So you can have these preset phrasing that you add very, very quickly. Or you could type in something specific, return on Tuesday the 17th to be fit with new amplification, right? Or you could use preset templates that are sort of a combination where they're in place, but they're still hyper-specific. For example, if there's an ENT that you work with routinely, you perhaps may say something like, call Dr. Smith at this number due to the difference between your ears, right? So you're telling them who to call, how to call them, and what to say when the office manager picks up the phone. So you can be very specific if there's a patient that you want to have them go see an ENT. So point being is you can add the recommendations very quickly. The idea is you're doing this right after you finish testing. So that way, when you start counseling, you have access to your patient counseling summary right away. So you can bring this up on a screen or you could print this for a patient and use it right away in counseling. Now you also have a great deal of control as to the look and feel overall of this summary. For example, you can go down here to the edit options area, and this is where you can define what's going to show up on the report itself and how things look within it. So of course you can change the title and the font size and the font and the margins. You can change the way the audiogram looks. So you can click on the options here and you can decide, do you want a large version? Do you want to switch left to right or right to left? What kind of background do you want, right? Do you want to keep this a little bit simpler, remove the color? Maybe you want to keep it even simpler than that. You can go through and see which version you prefer. You of course could change this on a case-by-case basis. Now it's important to know if you do make any changes to the report options here, you do want to make sure that you click Save. That will lock in the change and then update the PDF right away. Okay. Now right now what we're seeing here are the default settings for this particular clinic. You of course can change your default settings by going up to Administration and then selecting Report Options here. So you can choose what you prefer, click Save, and it will lock in those changes. Okay. Now let's go ahead and have a look at that again. The idea is that this report is something you can use right away in counseling. Like I said, you can print it off, you could draw on it, you could hand it to the patient. You also can fax and email this patient counseling summary directly from counselor as well, right under the actions menu. So maybe something you bring up on a screen, talk through with the patient, and then ask them, would you like me to print this for you or email it to you, right? So you have that ability right away. As I referenced earlier, counselor will automatically generate the layman's term description of the hearing loss, so you do not have to type this out. This is based on the classification of the hearing loss for each ear. And then of course here we can see the specific recommendations that you'd added. Now, if you find that these are not in your preferred order, maybe you want this to be number 1, you can do so very easily by using the blue arrows to change the order of the recommendations. Okay, or you can edit them or remove one if you don't want that on the list. Okay. There's also a custom section available which enables you to add additional text. And this may be the case for more details about the audiological evaluation or follow-up or oral rehab, whatever the case may be. You may use it as well for an entirely different purpose. Let's say, for example, you wanted to create a post-fitting summary for the patient that talked about, red right, blue left, and various things, key points you want the patient to be able to remember. You could choose to not display the audiogram, right, and remove all these things, and then add text to the custom section, maybe the post-fitting summary. Maybe you have cochlear implant related text. Maybe you have auditory processing related text, or whatever the case may be. That will populate, and then you can completely reconfigure the report so that's all that's in the summary. And so while the focus with the patient report is typically on right after the audiogram, it has a great deal of flexibility to be used for a wide variety of purposes as well. So anytime you want to provide the patient with a customized counseling summary, we of course recommend that you utilize the patient report for that purpose. Okay, so once again, there's a great deal of flexibility in the setup of this. We want this to be, help you do this in a very timely fashion to create the summary and use that right away with the patient. Now, as I just referenced, you can change the behind the scenes settings related to the profession report by clicking on administration, and then you have your admin sections here where you can create new recommendations or new custom section templates or change your default report options. So great deal of flexibility there. Of course, if you'd like any assistance with getting those templates set up or those preferences in place, we are happy to assist. So give us a call, email us, live chat us, just let us know how we can help. Thank you for joining us for the Counselor tutorial on creating patient reports.